Reopening countries' borders should be carried out cautiously. BERSATU should honour its pact with GPS. Arrests as OTTAWA warned of volatile protesters. Those are the headlines for tonight. I'm Ruben Gomez, and this is TVS Nightline. The proposal to fully open the national borders without the mandatory quarantine as early as March 1st must be carried out cautiously, while taking into account the current development of the COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia.
Kalau sempadan itu terbuka, okeylah. Ini akan melegakan sedikit. Dan begitu juga, banyak yang pelawat ini yang datang pelancong. Bukan saja nak pergi beli belah di bandar-bandar, mereka datang kepada melawat national park kita, wildlife sanctuaries kita. Ini terjejas akibat pandemik COVID-19 ini. Dan kalau border kita dibuka, dan sudah tentu sektor ini akan berkembang. Dan semua ini adalah di bawah pengurusan SFC, SFC. Dan ini adalah satu produk, dan ini akan boleh meningkatkan sektor pelancongan itu sendiri. Tapi dalam masa yang sama kita juga harus melihat dari segi aspek penularan COVID itu sendiri. Jadi terpulanglah kalau diputuskan demikian, tapi SOP itu kena dipatuhi supaya pandemik ini tidak akan berulang lagi, meningkat begitu, dan kita semua tak mau lockdown lagi.
Awang Tengah, who is also the Minister of Natural Resources and Urban Development, said so at a media conference after officiating the Integrity and Innovation Day 2022 on Wednesday. He added that Sarawak welcomes the reopening of the national border as it helps to rehabilitate the economy, including Sarawak's timber industry.
Terdapat sedikit peningkatan pada tahun 2021 dari segi nilai ekspor produk perkayuan, iaitu berjumlah RM3.9 bilion, dan ini adalah merupakan peningkatan 4% dibanding pada tahun 2020, di mana kita pada tahun 2020 cuma mencatatkan nilai ekspor sebanyak RM3.7 bilion, dan diharap tren ini akan berterusan, dan ianya akan dapat meningkatkan lagi nilai ekspor kita.
Awang, who is also the Minister of International Trade and State Investment, said the state government is also intensifying efforts to strengthen the timber industry into a high-value added industry to achieve the projection of export value of 8 billion ringgit by 2030.
Berdasarkan sasaran dan tujuan ini, kerajaan negeri memberi penekanan kepada pembangunan ladang. Langkah ini boleh menjamin bekalan bahan mentah yang mampan untuk industri hiburan perkayuan tempat.
On February 8, the National Recovery Council (NRC) has recommended the government to fully open the national border as early as March 1st without the requirement of a quarantine. NRC Chairman Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the reopening is crucial to support the country's recovery, especially in the economic and tourism sector, as it is part of the nation's efforts to attract foreign investors to the country. Deputy Chief Minister Awang Tengah Liasan said the state government is also planning to develop a furniture park in Kuching and Tanjung Manis. He said to realise this, the state will work with industry players, and the provision of such infrastructure and facilities can be a catalyst for investment, let it be from local or foreign investors in the furniture industry, which is expected to generate an investment of around 500 million ringgit and an estimated export value of 4 billion ringgit by 2030.
Kerajaan akan bekerjasama dengan pihak industri untuk membangunkan furniture park di Kuching dan Tanjung Manis. Sarana dan kemudahan sedemikian akan dapat menjadi pemangkit bagi pelabur tempatan dan asing dalam industri pelabur khasnya untuk pasaran ekspor.
The Sarawak State Tourism, Creative Industry and Performing Arts Ministry welcomed the proposed reopening of Malaysia's international borders by March 2022. At the same time, include the non-mandatory quarantine for visitors, which essentially hastened the country's National Recovery Plan (NRP), thus boosting Sarawak's post-COVID-19 development strategy 2030 (PCDS).
Its Minister, Dato' Sri Karim Rahman Hamzah, in a statement says the suggestions and recommendations made by National Recovery Council, NRC, augur well for the speedy recovery of Malaysia's various economic sectors. Meanwhile, Karim says Sarawak's medical tourism industry is also set to benefit the reopening of our borders. He said previously the promising revenue stream from such sector had encouraged the establishments of private medical institutions and hospitals in Kuching, Sibu, Miri, and Bintulu. According to the Association of Private Hospital Malaysia, APHM, Malaysia's medical tourism had contributed 1.7 billion ringgit to the economy back in 2019 before the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic in 2020.
Right, it is crucial to inculcate accountability, honesty, transparency, and trust in any organizations to avoid the act of corruption. Therefore, Sarawak Timber Industry Development Corporation, STIDC, had established an integrity department to serve as a focal point, as well as being responsible to implement initiatives related to promoting the culture of integrity. Assistant Minister of Integrity and Ombudsman, Dato' Dr. Juanda Jaya, says that this is intended to foster awareness among the STIDC employee.
Ahli-ahli politik sentiasa mengambil sikap positif terhadap apa sahaja aduan daripada rakyat, ya? Dan kita perlu bersikap jujur untuk melihat benar atau tidak aduan berkenaan dan bagaimanakah ia boleh diatasi. Pada zaman teknologi maklumat yang luar biasa pada hari ini, ya, pada zaman digital seperti yang wujud pada hari ini, kita sudah tidak boleh menyimpan masalah itu di bawah kapet lagi. Kita mesti menyelesaikan masalah berkenaan secara yang telus, jujur dan saksama. Karena itu kalau kita buka ruang untuk rakyat, ya, menyampaikan aduan, ia membawa maksud kita mengamalkan keterbukaan yang luar biasa.
The state government is serious in its effort to improve integrity, governance and the anti-corruption campaign to ensure a better public service delivery. Juanda said 94 civil servants had been appointed as certified integrity officers, and between 2018 and 2020, 84,757 individuals have attended programs organized by his unit. Meanwhile, STIDC General Manager Datuk Hashim Bojet said the corporation had documented the organisation anti-corruption plan and corruption risk management plan to combat corruption elements in operations.
Pusaka juga telah menghantar 2 orang pegawai kita untuk dilatih sebagai pegawai integriti bertauliah. Selain daripada itu, program pengukuhan integriti juga dipanjangkan kepada anak-anak syarikat pusaka melalui model integriti pusaka. Matlamat kita adalah untuk menjadikan budaya integriti ini sebagai trust kepada kecemerlangan kumpulan syarikat pusaka.
The stagnant water issue at Kampung Tepi Laut Belawai has been resolved as the upgrading work of road and drainage system project has begun. It is the first phase of the project implemented under the Rural Transformation Project (RTP) for the Tanjung Manis area with a total of 500,000 ringgit.
According to Tanjung Manis MP, Yusuf Abdul Wahab, the upgrading work will cover from Kampung Tepi Laut, Kampung Padang Lama, Kampung Muhibah and Kampung Hilir.
Masalah di kawasan tersebut adalah masalah peparitan di mana setiap selepas hujan lebat dan sebagainya kita dapati bahawa air bertakung di kawasan tersebut dan sukar untuk keluar mengikut sistem peparitan yang sedia ada. Jadi untuk menyelesaikan masalah, kita telah berbincang dengan Jabatan Pengairan dan Saliran bahagian Mukah dan kami telah membuat lawatan ke tapak dan melihat sendiri tentang masalah peparitan di kawasan tersebut.
The initiative will ensure long-term solace for the local community at Tanjung Manis.
Tapi dia tidak berhenti di situ saja sebab sebenarnya untuk jumlah untuk membuat sistem peparitan yang sempurna di kawasan tersebut melebihi 500,000. Maka ada usaha oleh Yang Berhormat Adun kita, Datuk Haji Len Talib Saleh, untuk menyambung projek tersebut. Mana saya buat dalam fasa 1, tetapi Datuk Len Adun kita akan membuat dalam fasa 2. Jadi juga bernilai 500,000. Jadi jumlah keseluruhannya adalah 1 juta.
And here's the COVID-19 update. Sarawak today recorded an increase of 184 COVID-19 cases. However, only 3 of the 184 cases recorded on Wednesday involved lung infections requiring oxygen as well as ventilators. On the other hand, 101 cases possessed no symptoms, while 80 cases are asymptomatic cases which only carry mild symptoms.
Kuching recorded the highest number of COVID-19 cases at 79, followed by Miri with 39, Sibu 28 and Lundu 10. According to a statement from the Sarawak Disaster Management Committee, SDMC, a community cluster has emerged in the state today, dubbed the Kampong Semaba Kuching Cluster. The infection is believed to be caused by a social gathering during the Chinese New Year celebration on 1 February.
Welcome along to the Paul and Mala Ali Show, coming to you from our little country. This is a big show with a lot of heart. We got family, food, fitness, fashion and fabulosity. Join me as I share with you my little Brunei. Only on TVS Astro, Channel 122 and MyTV.
This weekend, TVS brings you a star-studded romantic comedy from the 1980s Hong Kong. The story follows a college graduate Paul who strikes up an acquaintance with a beautiful Monica at a subway station. He also met another girl, Anita, who immediately admires and has a crush on him. Anita tries every possible means to win Paul's heart, but Paul has fallen in love with Monica too deeply. Monica, meanwhile, has her own love affair issues that complicates a lot of things. How will this young love end? Don't forget to watch Leslie Cheung, Maggie Cheung, and Anita Mui in Behind the Yellow Line. Saturday, 12 February, 8:45 p.m., especially on TVS Channel 122, Astro and MyTV.
Yang kami faham pakai mask.
Jarak mesti at least 1 meter.
Wash hand frequently. Tak mestilah pakai facial mask.
Penjarakan sosial.
First of all, macam kita masuk mall ke, sini-sini kedai, mesti scan.
Sentiasalah jaga doktor.
Kita jaga kita.
Kita jaga kita.
Kita jaga kita.
Kita jaga kita.
Welcome back. 3 men were arrested for their alleged involvement in a string of house break-ins. Police were alerted to the trio's activities following a public tip-off on February 5th. Prior to the arrest, suspects were ransacking a house in Sungai Maung's Tengah for valuable items. All three suspects are aged between 30 to 39 years old. Kuching District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Ashman Baja said the suspects have had previous criminal records of at least 2 burglary cases within Kuching area, while one of the suspects had previous record for drugs. All suspects have been remanded for 7 days starting February 7th until 13th to facilitate investigation under Section 457 of the Penal Code. Now, the remains of a human torso with its head and limbs detached were found in a river in Lingga district on Wednesday. The rest of the body is believed to have been devoured by a crocodile. The victim has been identified as Tain Wai Maung from Myanmar. The Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department said the victim was reported to have fallen from a boat at 10:50 p.m. on Monday. The search team from the Suraman Fire and Rescue Department and other agencies found the victim floating about 5 kilometers at 7:30 a.m. from where the victim went missing. The remains have been handed over to the police, the department added. All of us were aware of the gentleman's agreement between Gabungan Parti Sarawak and BERSATU, in which a declaration was made by the BERSATU president before the previous Sarawak state election that party would not be fielding its candidates in Sarawak. The question remains, will the unwritten pact will be honoured and the consensus met in the upcoming general election? When asked if incumbents who are now BERSATU party members in retaining their seats, Parti Pusaka Bumi Putra BERSATU PBB Vice President Datuk Sri Dr. Stephen Rundi Utom said in response that the victory should be in the hands of GPS.
At the end of the day, the top leadership will decide. We will see, and the decision must be consensus. Whoever stands there, bottom line, GPS must win the seat.
On another question, will Datuk Willie Mongin step aside and let PBB contest in Puncak Borneo? This is what Rundi said.
Well, it depends if he thinks that, initially there was an understanding that BERSATU would not put their candidate in against GPS. So I leave it to William Mangin.
The Election Commission EC has set March 12th as the polling day for the Johor state election. The nomination will be on February 26 and early voting on March 8.
SPR telah menetapkan beberapa tarikh penting bagi PRU Dewan Negeri Johor ke-15 seperti berikut. Tarikh keluar writ 9 Februari 2022. Hari penamaan calon 26 Februari 2022. Hari mengundi awal 8 Mac 2022. Hari mengundi 12 Mac 2022.
Abdul Ghani said the state election was estimated to cost 96 million ringgit. A total of 56 returning officers, 186 assistant returning officers, and 49,290 election workers will be appointed for the Johor polls. He said 1,021 polling centres with 4,638 voting channels would be used on the polling day, while 63 centres with 83 channels would be used for early voting. Abdul Ghani said the Master Electoral Roll 2021, which was updated as of January 21st, 2022, would be used for the state election. The electoral roll contains 2,597,742 voters, comprising 2,574,835 regular voters, 10,955 military personnel and their spouses, 11,576 police personnel and spouses, and 376 absent voters who are overseas. As one of the fast developing cities in the country, Kuching City generates approximately about 500 tons of domestic waste daily. With rapid growth in population, development and consumerism, creating innovative and sustainable solid waste management solutions is necessary, acknowledging the fact in minimizing its impact on the environment and public health. 3 agencies, namely the Natural Resources and Environment Board NREB, Sarawak, Trinican Sarawak Sdn Bhd, and WWF Malaysia, recently inked a Memorandum of Agreement MOA.
All the wastes are safely disposed at the Kuching Integrated Waste Management Park KIWMP in Mambong. This agreement is to jointly develop and publish a solid waste management and environmental education book for primary schools, particularly for Club Pencinta Alam Sekitar Pels Club members. Peggy Ronin Edin, NREB Controller of Environmental Quality Sarawak, said concerted efforts by all parties are pivotal in managing the environment. Meanwhile, according to Trinican's Group Chief Executive Officer Stephen Chin, the publication of the book was planned to provide an educational resource and framework that specifically address solid waste management issues. The virtual MOA signing ceremony solidified the 3 parties' collaboration, and work on the book shall start in early 2022. Once completed, about 500 books are expected to be distributed and used by the Pels Club throughout Sarawak.
Right, COVID-19 vaccine booster has been made compulsory for Malaysian Umrah pilgrims under the new Standard Operating Procedure (SOP), complying with the requirement made by the Saudi government. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Idris Ahmad, added that beginning today, the Holy Land is now accessible. However, pilgrims must adhere to the restrictions laid out by the Saudi government. On the latest data on prospective Umrah pilgrims who have received booster shots, Idris said his team has yet to have the figure. He said the statistic on prospective Malaysian Umrah pilgrims who have received booster doses were with the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, because the Umrah SOP was under the ministry's purview.
Kecemasan, boleh saya bantu?
Hello, there's been a motorcycle accident here. Maybe an elephant ran it over.
Sir, there is fire accident at the address number 5 Jalan Tembikar, Shah Alam.
PGO from FRT Shah Alam, there was no fire accident here. Over.
MERS 999. Use it wisely.
跟随数位不同舞蹈背景的舞者，体验沙劳越当地传统文化、美食和舞蹈。在这一集中，我们将去到士龙门的Kampung Gumbang，体验比达友传统文化。舞者们能在一天结束前学会这比达友传统舞蹈吗？让我们敬请期待。
Penggunaan aplikasi digital dalam kalangan rakyat Malaysia semakin memberangsangkan. Ini dapat dilihat dengan peningkatan pengguna perkhidmatan digital di portal My Government, pusat sehenti dalam talian yang menyediakan akses kepada pelbagai perkhidmatan kerajaan. Ayuh lihat beberapa perkhidmatan yang disediakan. Adam sedang bekerja dari rumah dan perlu memperbaharui lesen memandu dan cukai jalannya. Segalanya dapat diselesaikan di portal My Sikap. Bagi Vic, warga negara Malaysia yang kerap keluar negara untuk bekerja, perkhidmatan My Online Passport mempermudah urusannya kerana kini pembaharuan pasport termasuklah pembayarannya dapat dilakukan secara dalam talian. Usahawan muda seperti Jenny pula dapat menguruskan pendaftaran dan pelesenan perniagaan dengan lebih efisien dengan Malaysia Biz. Menerusi perkhidmatan e-lesen, Jenny dapat memohon lesen perniagaannya dengan mudah. Pendigitalan membawa kemajuan. Ayuh maju ke hadapan sebagai satu keluarga Malaysia demi kemakmuran bersama. Kita guna, kita sokong, kita mampu.
And now we're back with Foreign Affair. Volatile and determined, demonstrators remain in Canada's capital after nearly 2 weeks of a trucker-led anti-vaccine mandate protests Ottawa is under a state of emergency after protesters blockaded the city centre with trucks and cars. Police have seized thousands of litres of fuel in recent days.
Up to 25% of the vehicles contain children who could be at risk during operations. The so-called Freedom Convoy began on January 9th in Western Canada as truckers protested against the rule that requires them to be vaccinated against COVID-19 to cross the US-Canada border. The demonstrations have morphed to include anger at COVID restrictions at Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government generally. Though the rally has been mostly peaceful, police have expressed concern about extremist rhetoric coming from far-right groups among the protesters. As well as reported racial and homophobic abuse, some danced on the tomb of the unknown soldier at the National War Memorial. Nearly 80 criminal investigations have been opened in relation to the protests, including for alleged hate crimes and property damage. Some 24 people have been arrested.
And here's an interesting one. In a stone classroom in rural Kenya's Rift Valley, Priscilla Sitiana, age 99, takes notes alongside her fellow pupils who are all more than 8 decades younger than her. Wearing her school uniform, a grey dress and green sweater, Sitiana, who is in her 6th year of primary schooling, said she went back to class to set a good example for her great-grandchildren and to pursue a new career.
Wakati mimi nasema nitaenda shule, watoto yangu wale yuko nyumbani, ako katasa mimi. Sema kuku, sasa wena kwenda wana kweli, ataona makaratasi, jua maandiko, mimi namwambia tatusa mimi, mpaka andika 1, 2, sinaendelea na mwalimu. Ni kweli. Masomo ile mimi napenda ikuwe daktari. Kwa maana mimi nilikuwa msaidia mkunga ya watu wenye kwa saa. Mimi nilikuwa mkunga. Ndio mimi nataka kufanya kazi ya daktari.
The government of the East African nation began subsidizing the costs of primary schooling in 2003, allowing some older members of society who had missed out on education in their younger days to revive their dreams. She said she had the idea when her granddaughter dropped out of school after getting pregnant. The elderly woman also enjoys other school activities, including physical education classes.
Mimi nafurahi kama mimi natembeanga na watoto. Kwa maana nanyorosha mwili yangu. Sangine hawa naruka, mimi naruka kidogo namna hii. Hata kama hawa naruka natingisha mwili namna hii. Ndio mimi naona napenda upendo yangu kwa watoto ndio hiyo.
Her teachers tap her wide experience to keep the peace during lessons.
I make her to be my class monitor, looking for the noisemakers in class. So she managed to do that work. When I go outside, the class will remain silent. When I am not there, Gogo is doing that and telling them, let us read, let us read. So I find it was something which is actually motivative to me and the pupils.
Well, that concludes TVS Nightline. I'm Ruben Gomez. Anytime, anywhere.
跟随数位不同舞蹈背景的舞者，体验沙劳越当地传统文化、美食和舞蹈。在这一集中，我们将去到士龙门的Kampong Gumbang，体验比达友传统文化。舞者们能在一天结束前学会这比达友传统舞蹈吗？让我们敬请期待。
lot of people say being your